So I think I was wrapping up about the last anti-choice legislative bill that is trying to get passed here in Illinois. And it was the mini surgical center bill that I call. And the problem with that is because the providers are so small, it would require them to spend a lot of money to get up to a mandate of trying to make this the way the bill requires. And so it would put people out of business. And right now, that is one of the ways that the anti-choice movement is working at to decrease access. And so, the access issue is paramount in this movement. There's not enough providers. There's not enough money to support women that need it. And so that's one more way is to remove the providers. If they can't get their facilities up to par, then they have to be put out of business. And we don't have a lot of providers. Even though Illinois is fairly lucky, we have providers here, but we still don't have enough providers to service all the women that would call our lines or call the provider lines on a daily basis. And that's just here in the inner city. In the rural and downstate, there aren't providers. And so those women have to travel hours. In some states, there are no providers, period. So women will have to leave their state to go to have a legal medical procedure. So it's access issues all around, and it's an injustice to women all around, because women don't have, even though we say this is a legal medical procedure, women really don't have the rights in this country to govern the bodies that they live in. And so that is a very big problem that's going on around the country, and that we are continuously fighting against. But we remain positive, and we will continue to keep doing this work no matter how hard it is. One of my inspirations, when I get kind of down or thinking about how difficult this work is, I think about the women of the Jane movement. Jane was an organization, or really a collective of women. It was started by a University of Chicago student named Heather Booth, and she was an activist. She knew a lot of resources, and a friend called her one day and asked her if she knew where his girlfriend could get an abortion. And she made some calls around, and she located someplace. And so she sort of like the center point of, the person that knows how to find out stuff or how to locate resources for women. And people began to call her in her dorm. And so what she did was she told people, if they needed help, to call, but to ask for Jane. And so that's how you can look that up. You can Google that. But they were doing this before Roe v. Wade. So, when abortion was legal, you had these college students, really radical, revolutionary, out there making sure that women were being serviced. After Heather left, she recruited some other students, and she moved on. After she left, those students continued on doing that work and linking women up to providers and people that would do abortion. And one of the things that these college students thought about was, hey, we're taking these women to these places that are kind of seedy, and they didn't know if they could really trust these places. And they said, I'm sure that we can do these abortions ourselves. And so when they would take the woman, they would watch, and they ended up being able to do the abortions themselves. So you had these students that were 20s, 19s and 20s doing abortion procedures and making sure that women were getting what they needed and what they desired for their family. Then probably in 1972, 71 or 72, something like that, there was a raid on one of the apartments that was being used for abortions. There was a raid, and the women of Jane were arrested. So they were known Abortion 7. You can look that up as well. And they, these college students and young mothers and young wives went to jail, And right around that time, Roe v. Wade was being argued in the courts. And so it became legal. The case was thrown out against Jane, and, it sort of disbanded at that point. But a lot of people that involved in the pro-choice movement during that time, friends of people in Jane, came together to form the Chicago Abortion Fund and other organizations, the Abortion Task Force, HERS, different organizations were formed out of that Jane model. And then those members of those organizations sort of came together to form the Chicago Abortion Fund in 1985 because they realized that there was still such a need. Even though abortion was legal, there was still a need. I'm going to flash the overhead again because I'm sure that people are interested in, number one, how do I get help? You would call our client service line, and I'm going to flash that number. Or, what I want to find out more about your leadership group, or I want to get involved. So here is our overhead. Take a look at that. Call the client service line there, 312-663-0338. You'll hear a detailed voice message, and make sure that you have a pen and paper handy. And what you'll do is it'll be a lot of information on there, and you can write that information down. It'll tell you when our line is open. We're not open every day. We're open particular times of the week, and we have a certain set of budget that we distribute, and once that is it, then the line closes and we don't answer it anymore. But it'll tell you all that on the voicemail. It'll also give you other resources for funding, and it will give you places where you can go for providers. So please feel free to call in with questions if you want to know anything about our direct services, our abortion funding services, or if you want to know more about our advocacy projects, the former grantees in the My Voice, My Choice leadership group. I'm going to flash the overhead again, and please call in with questions. And that's 333 West North Avenue, Suite 267, Chicago, Illinois 60610. And our phone number, 312-663-0338. And our website is www.chicagooabortionfund.com. And down there below is our email, in case you want to send us an email if you don't want to call. It's info@ChicagoAbortionFund. And once again, my name is Gaylon Alcaraz. I'm the Executive Director. Always feel free to contact me directly if you have some questions or some concerns, or you need some support or help. One of the things that we do with every woman that we give funding to is we send her out a post-abortion package after her procedure. Inside that package is a lot of information and a lot of resources based on what we hear on that intake call. So yes, we do include condoms and dental dams and lubricant, but we also include information where she can go cost or sliding scale, birth control or healthcare, reproductive healthcare services. If the woman has stated in the intake call that she's homeless or she's living with someone, or she's a victim of rape or domestic violence, we have resources in our resource binder, and we will send her that information as well. We'll drop that in there. After we've sent that information, we'll follow up with her. So we give every woman that we've funded at least 3 follow-up calls. And we call them and we make sure that they're doing okay, that the procedure went fine, if they have any questions. We also call back a second time to find out if they did receive their resource packet, if they have any questions about that, if they needed any help or assistance linking up with those resources that we've been, or if they needed more condoms or anything. In our third follow-up call to the women, we began to have a conversation about reproductive justice and the injustices that women face in attempting to exercise their reproductive choice. And so we make sure that we're not only providing resources, but we're also providing education as well. It is also during that third follow-up call that we're engaging a woman to the point we're inviting her into this leadership group to see if she would like to have her voice heard about her concerns and to link her up with additional resources and support. I think that we're going to have a caller in just 1 second. Go ahead, caller.
Hi,
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I was calling because I wanted to know, is there an age limit in Illinois to have an abortion?
Okay, thank you for that question, caller. No, there is not an age limit. And so we have plenty of mothers that have called in for their minor daughters, and we have teenagers call in. The majority of our calls do come from ages 7 to 26, and those young women are already mothers. So that's the majority of our calls. About 80% of our calls come from African American women. About 10% of those calls come from Latina women. And then the rest of those calls come from Caucasian women or other. So those are some of the demographics. If you have any questions about that, though, feel free to give me a call at 312-663-0338, and I'd be more than happy to answer those questions for you. I'm going to flash the overhead one more time because we're going to be wrapping it up in just a minute. There is our overhead so that you can contact us. That's 333 West North Avenue, Suite 267, Chicago, Illinois 60610. And that's 312-663-0338. Our website is www.chicagooabortionfund.com, or feel free to send us an email at info@chicagooabortionfund.com. Thank you very much for tuning in another month with us, and hopefully we will see you next month. And if you want to look at us live, CAN TV has a new program where they are streaming the program live online, and so you can also look at your favorite CAN TV shows there. Thank you and have a good evening. Bye-bye.